I have COVID, and having COVID made me realize that, hey, if I don't make it, there's a whole bunch of things I wish I had shared, especially with my daughters, that I had recorded literally anywhere for them to go and look at. And of course, with you all, my audience, which I deeply appreciate that you all tune in and check me out on a daily basis. Rise of Kingdoms, or on my second channel, I've got Squad Busters or Call of Dragons or whatever the heck I'm doing or playing. So this video is going to be filled with the absolute best advice that I've got for you, because although I am vaccinated and I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice, I've experienced some pretty wild swings of symptoms. And I thought, man, it would be a real tragedy if suddenly I can't share all these things, and I wish that I had. So use the timestamps in the description to jump to Chiskel Gaming's best advice, at least what I could come up with to summarize over the last 24 hours or so, things that would have changed my life had I known them sooner, and hopefully they will for you. And if they do, throw a like on here, consider subscribing, because I drop this stuff into my streams. So some of this may be familiar to you, but one quote you might not have heard me say is from Chris Williamson, and at least I heard it from him. It's the magic you're seeking is in the work you're avoiding. You know what this means. There's something in your life you really want to change or go for. Something in your work that would be transformative. The magic you're seeking is in the work you're avoiding. I don't think this one needs a lot of explanation, although a lot of these will get stories that are very personal. And this next one, maybe we start to go there. So this next one is the best advice I have ever gotten. And it came from someone I used to work with, a colleague. So I worked at a tech startup, and I was running the product org for that startup. This person was the chief operating officer, and we went out to lunch. And I don't know how this came up, but he said, hey, let me give you the best advice you'll ever get in your entire life. And I swear, I wasn't like arguing with my wife or in a weird situation, but what he said was that in his household, they have a rule, only one person crazy at a time. And at first that sounds a little weird. Like, obviously it doesn't mean you should stay in like an abusive relationship. But what it's saying is that we, especially as gamers, let me give you the language that'll cue you in here. But we know that sometimes we get emotional or angry or irrational. This is called tilt in gaming, right? You've all seen someone be on tilt. You've probably seen me be on tilt on stream at some point. We're in a video. It's absolutely happened, right? And so the advice here, only one person crazy at a time, is that if this other person you care about, you react to their tilt by also going on tilt, you make the situation way worse than it already was. So the wisdom here is to not react to crazy with more crazy, because it doesn't make the situation better. You have to wait until your partner is calm and rational again. Before then, you can go in and really do the work that's needed to help shift their mindset or get them through the thing they need to getting through, whatever it is. But only one person crazy at a time will change your relationships forever. It's really good advice. And on the topic of advice that will change your relationships forever, how about this one? While driving, it's always okay for your passenger, whether it's a friend or it's your partner, to point out something they see on the road that they think you don't see. That might seem weird, but you know you've been in the car with a couple that gets into a yelling match, okay, over the fact that the passenger pointed out something and the driver's like, of course I saw the stop sign or that car or that thing or whatever, and they're freaking out. Yeah. So we have a household rule. And I learned this from one of my childhood best friends. They had this rule in their family, which is it is always okay for a passenger in the car to point out something on the road that they think the driver does not see. Doesn't need to be an argument, doesn't need to be a fight. It's just like for safety for everybody. That's a great rule. The last truism I'll give you before I get into some stories is going to be you get what you tolerate. You get what you tolerate. This is true in leadership. This is true in life. It's true of your friends. This is especially true of your friends. And by the way, the friends that you have and the people you live around will dramatically shape your destiny more than any other humans you interact with. You get what you tolerate. Tolerate friends that have certain sorts of problems. You can expect your life is going to be filled with those sorts of problems, right? If you tolerate certain behaviors, you will continue to get them. So you've got to hold yourself and others to the standard that you yourself want to be held to, right? Now we get to some stories, okay? And this has to do with the great American lie. Oh man. I don't know, I'm calling it this. Other people probably have names for this that they've got, but Let me tell you the biggest lie of my life, the single greatest lie that I lived with for a very long time. In fact, at least like, I don't know, I want to say like 18 or so years of my life, which is that if you be a good little boy and you go to school and you do what you're told and you get good grades, congratulations, you make it to middle school. And if you go to middle school, you get good grades and you do what you're told, congratulations, you go to high school. And if you go to high school and you get good grades and you do what you're told, congratulations, maybe you go to college. And if you go to college and you do what you're told, you get good grades, you get a good job. And guess what? When you get a good job, you're going to be happy. That is the great American lie. It does not work that way. Maybe you'll be happy at the end. Maybe you won't. I certainly wasn't. Because it turns out that doing what you're told and learning to do that your entire life is the opposite of what you actually need to do. What you actually need to do is forge your own path. That doesn't mean you can't do things that are, a little bit more clear cut in the way they operate. Like you can have a job, okay? But what I'm saying is that you have to figure out what works for you, and school doesn't teach you how to do that. School teaches you how to pass tests, how to follow instruction, and again, do what you're told. Whereas life is actually all about the opposite, figuring out what's right and then doing that thing. And it has to be right for you, and what's right for you is not right for everybody. I mean, did I expect when I was in school for engineering that I would now be a content creator? And it's really funny because I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. For a long time, I still kind of don't know, but like I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life at all in college. And I remember going to my guidance counselor. It was actually the head of the college. I was in an honors college. And I sat down with them and I chatted with them for like an hour. And midway through the session, I was kind of like, hey, I really don't know what I want to do, but I really like what you're doing. This is like, like advising is really, I don't know, this feels really cool. And they said, oh, well, if you want to do what I'm doing, you need to go get, a graduate degree, then you need to go get a PhD. And she listed all the stuff that she had done to become the dean of the college. And it was completely irrelevant advice to me. And it was actually like completely lost the plot and completely missing the point, which is like, hey, wait, like I just like advising people. And it's really funny that like years later, I combined my love of multiple things, gaming and teaching, and boom, here we are. And I don't want to be a teacher. Like I never in a million years would have said, I want to be in a classroom teaching classes. Like no, 100% that is fully not what I want to do ever in my life. But like this person only knew what they knew, and they only knew what they had done, which is that they like got this degree in chemistry and they did this and they did that and they did this and like that. Here's how to get to where I am. Like that, they lost the plot. I couldn't figure it out. I left that meeting being like, I guess I don't want to do that then. It was really weird. It was such a missed opportunity in college. Like, I don't know, man. I look back on it and it's like, how was I so dumb? But here was this person with all these fancy degrees, top of their top of their top of their top of the top of their classes. And like, they missed the plot too. We all missed the plot. And like, man, no one can do that for you. Like, only you can chart your path. And so school is important. And school is important because it will open doors for you. But the only real preparation for your job is having jobs. And having jobs will teach you whether or not you like those jobs or you like those environments. So in college, I had one internship and it was really insightful. I really didn't like it. And somehow I still went back to like a corporate environment doing something slightly different. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I really could have learned so much more by having more jobs prior to finishing college. Like the internships where you get to just taste a job but have real accountability is just so much more important than anything I would have done in any class I took in college. In fact, the only classes of any relevance that I took in college as an engineer was actually a leadership minor that I did on the side. And in this leadership minor, man, this one class was so insane. It was completely the opposite of anything I had ever done before. And the way the class worked is on day one, you were told, hey, you're going to introduce yourself. And based on how you introduce yourself to the class, we're going to sit you down at a table, and that table is your letter grade. And over the course of the semester, your grade will change. We'll switch what table you're at. And that's the grade you're getting. And there's an A, B, C, D, and an F table. And you're going to sit at one of those tables. And so I introduced myself by saying, I forget what all I said, but I included the fact that I liked swing dancing. And I said, I'd throw down right now if you wanted to see it. And they said, okay. So someone came up to the front of the class. I danced. We put music on, right? Swing dancing is a partner dance. And I crushed it, man, in front of everybody. Like, boom. I said I could do it and we did it, right? And they put me at the A table. And partway through the semester, I was the leader of the A table. And they wanted to make things a little bit more interesting for the next challenge. And this class was a series of challenges. It was very entrepreneurial in nature. And they took everyone at the A table and put one person in charge from the A table of each of the other tables. So I became the leader of the F table because I was the head of the A table, and they made me now no longer the head of the A table. You're now the head of the F table, and figure it out. And there was this big entrepreneurial challenge. And you had to go make a bunch of money. And like we did, we sold t-shirts, I think. But it was a really powerful experience. And I learned more in that class that was relevant to my future than I did anything else. The only thing that I would say is actually relevant to the rest of your life from your schoolwork is your group work. Group classes, or group projects rather, are extremely representative of what your real life is going to be like when you graduate and go into the workforce. Because you will absolutely, if you work in an office environment, have group efforts, and there will be all of the same problems. Like you think, oh, but it's college. You know, like if somebody's a slacker there, that would never happen in a work environment. Bro, what a joke. There's always slackers in work environments. There's always unqualified people. The work environments are very poorly managed on average. Even the best places have tons of problems. And I experienced no small amount of corporate bullying. I mean, the biggest BS ever. And these organizations that are supposed to be top tier and designed to weed that kind of crap out, they do not. They do not have the stomach for it, and they will not, and you will get raffle stomped by the assholes in the work environment. And it is exactly the same as group projects in school. Group projects in school are the best preparation for group projects, even though the subject of the group project will almost certainly have nearly nothing to do with the group projects you would have in a corporate work environment if that's where you're going to go. So does this mean you should skip your education? Absolutely not. But like 99.9% of people are on autopilot in their education. And I think the thing you ought to be doing as you go through school is to say, okay, what is it? Or even if you're after school and you're figuring out what the hell am I doing with myself, is to say, okay, I may not know the full picture of where I want to go and what I want to do, but what do I need to try next to learn what I need to learn? What do I need to learn about what I want to do? And try stuff that teaches you that thing. And then keep learning and keep learning and keep learning and keep learning. And eventually you will hone in on what it is that really makes you engaged. And there's this, advice that sounds really BS-y and wishy-washy where it'd say like, oh, if you're doing what you love, you never work a day in your life. Bro, I work harder than literally anyone else I have ever met. And the reason I can do that is I actually enjoy what I'm doing. And it does make a difference. You can find that. And the way you find that is through iteration. And along those lines, because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated from college, the thing that I ultimately did is follow my father's footsteps. I mean, I did engineering, I think largely because he had done engineering. I mean, it still fit. I like problem solving and blah, blah, blah. But like I spent so much effort trying to find an engineering discipline that fit me. I ultimately did industrial engineering, which people used to call imaginary engineering. But industrial engineering is all about efficiency of interactions with machines interacting with other machines, machines interacting with people, and people interacting with other people. And it's that people with people side that actually most interested me. And I became very systems oriented. So it was actually it actually fit. It did make sense as a path for me. But when I graduated, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I certainly didn't want to optimize an industrial, factory floor or something like that. Even though there were a lot of my colleagues college that are like, that's what they wanted to do. I was like, bro, don't get me anywhere near that. So I went into consulting, right? And the magic I learned there is that I got to experience tons of different work environments all while still working at the same place. So I had many different clients, and I remember visiting Washington, D.C. and being at a swanky ass party in Georgetown, okay? Where everybody is so far up their own ass, you wouldn't believe it. They're so stuck up and pretentious. And this guy thought he was the hottest shit on the face of the earth. And we were just talking. And he'd only ever worked at one place. And I realized in my conversation with him very quickly that he only knew one reality. And in the 1 year that he had experienced one way of operating in a work environment, I had experienced 5 different work environments and 5 different ways of being entirely. And I realized in that moment that years of experience are not years of experience, that you can pull so much more from a short window of time, just trying lots of different things, rather than doing the same thing for a really long time. And I felt like that was the moment I realized that I could 5x my career in a blink of an eye by doing the right things. And so can you, by doing the right things, right? And if it feels like you're doing the same thing over and over, you probably are. And if you're not learning, you're probably not. So you should look at that and see what you can do about it. And, look, there's no easy answer here. And some of this is a little bit weird. One of my favorite influencers is Alex Hormozy. And although I'm long past college and I don't have kids going to college anytime soon. No one I know is going to college anytime soon. But one of the things I learned from one of his videos that I thought was really insightful is that your zip code ends up being the greatest predictor of your success. I'm like, look, I don't have the data. You can go watch his video for his data. I'll try to find that video and put a link in the description, okay, if you want to go look into this. But college is really advantageous if you grew up in an unfavorable zip code, because it's kind of like changing your zip code to a more favorable one. And it turns out that the people you know and learning how to interact with other people and your network in life is far more valuable than most of the other things that you might have access to. So literally your zip code ends up being an amazing predictor. And if you're not in a great zip code now, then for you, a prestigious university ends up being a huge life-changing moment, or even a university that is shifting your network of people that you know. This is huge, okay? And if you're sitting here thinking, oh, well, I'm smart, it doesn't matter. No. Smart and successful are 2 completely different ideas. They are so completely different. One does not guarantee the other. There's an entire book dedicated to why people are outrageously successful. I read this 10 plus years ago. It's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And there's an entire section of the book talking about how the smartest people in the world are not necessarily the most successful. In fact, historically, they aren't. And these are 2 very different ideas. So if you're sitting here thinking, well, I'm not all that smart, I'm screwed, not true at all. You're only screwed if you think you're screwed. There's plenty that you can do to be just hugely successful. And I would say I, at times, have felt like I'm on the end of being pretty smart, but not playing the social situations as well as I could have, and having that bite me. So being smart and being successful are 2 different things. Being smart might help you be successful, or it might not. And on the topic of being successful, here's something that will help you out. Never speak negatively of anyone for really any reason. Once you break this rule, you will find that you break it more and more, or you will find that if you surround yourself with people who break this rule, you will be more inclined to break this rule. But it is a really bad habit, and it is really hard to unlearn. And I am absolutely victim to this, especially in social media, a YouTuber. I have absolutely fallen victim to this, and it's a mistake. Don't speak negatively of other people, really, for any reason. Don't indulge it. And it's funny, this negative comment, positive comment thing actually goes pretty deep. And there's a bunch of research. At one point in my life, thought I wanted to study positive psychology. Maybe what the hell is positive psychology? Well, there's all this psychology about shit that's broken and mental states that are messed up, right? And how people get there. But positive psychology looks at how do we take things and make them work better, rather than how do we fix something that's broken. And one of the biggest takeaways from this, and I almost went back to school for this to study, is something called the Losada line. It is the ratio of positive to negative comments. And you may think, bro, that's BS. It doesn't matter, except it does. You can look at a group and you can predict at a very high degree of success, based on the ratio of positive and negative comments, whether or not that group will be successful. If the group is too positive, they have what's called groupthink. And groupthink is where everybody's just agreeing to things and then they're all wrong. And they agreed even though they were, steering the ship off a cliff or whatever, right? Like that is the problem with too positive. Too negative, and there's just too much conflict and strife and people are not happy. The magic ratio is 6-1. This, as it turns out, is true for relationships. It's true for work environments. You want to change your life? Start to study the Losada line. Okay, what is the ratio of positive, negative comments in the groups that you're in? This is a Rise of Kingdoms channel, so you can just start to think about, is my kingdom generally happy or not? And I guarantee you that ratio is a predictor. Now, since we're talking about Rise of Kingdoms, maybe we should talk a little bit about leadership. One of the truisms, in fact, I'll give you two of them, that I've tried to hold is to solve problems, not blame. And often you'll see groups try to fix the blame, not the problem. And another one is that leaders deflect credit, accept the blame, but solve problems, right? So like, okay, something went wrong, my bad. Even if it's not your bad, my bad, I'm the leader, my bad. Then you go solve the problem, right? You don't take the blame and just, eat it because you're the leader. No, you go fix that shit, right? That's what you do. And this ties right into something I really wanted to make sure to talk about, which is victim mindset. I know I've had this at different points in my life, but victim mindset is where you're in a woe is me state. It's so bad. What am I supposed to do? Like, look, you can either solve problems or complain about them, but it's hard to do both of those things at the same time. And it might sound a little bit aggressive, but it's actually just a choice. It's a mindset choice. What do you feel like doing right now? You feel like bitching about it, or do you actually want to, fix the thing? Sometimes it can feel cathartic to be a victim, but the longer you live in that mindset, the, more you're going to sort of tolerate it and become accustomed to it. Same is true of the people you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with a bunch of people that behave with a victim mindset, you could pick that up yourself. So for yourself and others, coach this out of yourself and the people around you. And unfortunately, the internet is pretty much designed to be your undoing these days, which sucks. And I know you're like watching a video on the internet and you're like, what do you mean? This is kind of interesting stuff, Chiscool. Well, look, there's a bunch of crap out there on social media. And the tragic truth of it is that most social media is designed to, not social media itself, but social media sites are designed to rewire your brain so that you keep scrolling and you keep looking at the site. I mean, they're literally designed to keep you entrapped, okay? So, like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook has this now. All these sites are designed to just suck your attention. And I know this because I find myself now addicted to YouTube Shorts and dopamine hits. And, now we have all this language to describe what's happening, but like my brain is now fully addicted to dopamine hits, and I struggle to pay attention, or not really pay attention, but I struggle to not have a device in my hand and be doing something with it, right? Like I really need to be engaged, and look, social media will destroy you. So here you are watching Chiscool Gaming. At least this is a long form video. Long form video is not as swipey as the rest of the internet, but that swipey stuff is designed to wreck you. And at some point, I don't know, man, if it's ever going to be made illegal, but it is criminal what social media is doing to people's brains. And it's also kind of insane, the sorts of stuff that you'll find on the internet. And what I'll leave you with here is to follow the science. There's a lot of woo-woo crap out there. And I know, because I've gone down the rabbit hole for one reason or another. Maybe we'll talk about it in another video. But follow the real science. The real data doesn't lie. Okay. And there's a lot of people who will pretend to have real science and real data when actually all they've got for you is BS. So the magic of the future is going to be figuring out truth from falsehood. And it is not going to be easy. But hopefully some amount of this life experience I've had will be valuable to you. And if it was, leave a comment down below. Throw a like on here. Consider subscribing. I make daily videos about Rise of Kingdoms, and you know that probably because you're here. Or I also cover Call of Dragons, and I've got a second channel where I'm covering Squad Busters. And I won't be a YouTuber forever, but I do really enjoy it. And as long as I still enjoy it, I'll still be here. And as long as no sickness takes me out of the game, which I think COVID will not this time around, but I'm glad that at least I can point to having all of this down somewhere so that in the future, like, hey, look, I said the things I needed to say, and I'm sure I'll come up with more because I actually have a lot more I want to say. But for the big lessons, as I look over the last 24 hours and I was thinking about this and I reflect on my life, like, these are some big ones. Had I done these things differently, I might be in a different place, but I'm pretty happy where I'm at, man. And honestly, I hope you stay happy, healthy, and safe.